The massive alien ship descended through Earth's atmosphere with all the subtlety of a cathedral dropping from the sky. Its iridescent hull reflected sunlight in ways that hurt human eyes to look at directly. Military jets escorted it toward the designated landing zone outside Washington, D.C., where a delegation of Earth's most important leaders waited. Captain James Walker stood at perfect attention, his dress uniform uncomfortably tight around the collar. As military liaison to the diplomatic team, he represented Earth's defense forces to the first confirmed alien visitors in human history. The weight of that responsibility pressed down on his shoulders. "Stand ready," he murmured to his honor guard, all hand-picked soldiers displaying impressive discipline despite the extraordinary circumstances. When the ship finally touched down, it made almost no sound, just a slight displacement of air and a gentle whir as its engines powered down. A seam appeared in its smooth side, widening into a ramp that extended toward the welcome party. The aliens that emerged looked nothing like the little green men of old science fiction. They stood tall, most over 7 feet, with 4 arms and skin colors ranging from deep blue to pale violet. Their movements were graceful and precise. 3 different species walked down the ramp, all wearing what appeared to be ceremonial robes bearing the same insignia. A spiral galaxy cradled in alien hands. "The Galactic Council welcomes Earth to the interstellar community," announced the tallest alien. Its voice came not from its mouth, but from a small device on its chest. "I am Ambassador Trell, representing 57 spacefaring civilizations." President Hartman stepped forward. "On behalf of humanity, we welcome you to Earth." The formal proceedings went smoothly, with speeches exchanged and gifts presented. The aliens seemed polite but reserved, studying humans with what Walker could only interpret as mild curiosity. Later that day, during the scheduled tour of Earth's military capabilities, things took an unexpected turn. Walker led the alien delegation through the demonstration area, where examples of human military technology were displayed. Fighter jets, tanks, naval vessels on screens, and various weapon systems, all arranged to showcase humanity's defensive capabilities without appearing threatening. "And here," Walker said, indicating a display of military firearms, "we have standard infantry weapons, from pistols to sniper rifles to automatic weapons." Ambassador Trell picked up an assault rifle, turning it over with his 4 hands. His expression was difficult to read, but the translation device conveyed his words clearly. "You propel small metal objects using chemical explosions." "Yes, sir. Gunpowder-based projectile weapons have been the backbone of Earth militaries for centuries," Walker explained. A ripple of sound passed through the alien delegation, their equivalent of laughter, Walker realized with growing discomfort. "Forgive our reaction," said Trell, setting the weapon down with visible distaste. "It's just that we haven't seen such primitive technology in thousands of years. Most species abandon projectile weapons before they even achieve spaceflight." Another delegate, shorter with blue skin, added, "You throw metal at your enemies. How quaint. We had assumed your television broadcasts showing such weapons were historical documentaries." Walker felt his face grow hot. "These weapons are highly effective in combat situations. Against other humans, perhaps," Trell said dismissively. "But any standard council defense field would render them useless. Even basic personal shields worn by civilians would stop these projectiles." The aliens continued through the exhibit, occasionally exchanging glances that needed no translation. Their condescension was clear. After they left, Admiral Thompson approached Walker. "That went well," he said sarcastically. "They think we're children," Walker replied, still staring at the weapons display. "Primitives barely out of the Stone Age." Thompson's face hardened. "Let's hope they never have reason to find out how effective primitive can be." Walker nodded slowly. "Yes, sir, let's hope." But something in his gut told him that hope wouldn't be enough. The day after the initial weapons demonstration, the council scientists requested access to examine human firearms more closely. Walker led them to a secure military facility where a comprehensive array of Earth's weapons technology awaited their inspection. Dr. Lorne, the head council scientist, moved between the tables with an air of academic detachment. His 4 arms allowed him to simultaneously handle multiple components of a disassembled rifle. Behind him, his assistant scanned each weapon with devices that emitted soft blue light. "Fascinating," Dr. Lorne said, though his tone suggested otherwise. "Your most advanced firearms still rely on the basic principles developed hundreds of years ago." He held up a bullet between 2 slender fingers, a metal projectile, propelled by expanding gases from a controlled explosion. No guidance systems, no energy matrices, not even basic particle acceleration. Walker kept his face neutral despite the growing irritation inside him. "They're reliable, accurate, and don't require exotic materials or power sources." "Yes, I suppose there's a certain charm to their simplicity," Dr. Lorne replied. "Most species go through this phase. The Tellarites used projectile weapons for nearly a century before developing their first plasma rifles." A junior council scientist approached with a tablet-like device. "We've completed the analysis, Doctor. As expected, the kinetic energy output is minimal compared to even our civilian-grade defensive technologies." Dr. Lorne nodded. "I suspected as much. No council species has been harmed by a physical projectile weapon in over 3 centuries. Walker cleared his throat. Would it be possible to actually test that claim? The alien scientists exchanged glances. "You wish to fire your weapons at our defensive technology?" Dr. Lorne asked, his large eyes blinking rapidly. "Just a simple demonstration. We provide the weapon. You provide whatever defensive equipment you think appropriate." After a brief consultation, the aliens agreed. 2 hours later, they assembled at the base's shooting range. A standard council personal shield generator had been set up in front of a ballistic gel dummy. The small disc-shaped device projected a faint blue shimmer around the target. "This is standard personal protection technology," explained Dr. Lorne. "Every council citizen carries one. It can deflect energy weapons up to military grade." He gestured dismissively at the rifle in Walker's hands. "It would certainly stop anything your weapons could produce." Admiral Thompson had joined them, standing with arms crossed beside Walker. "Let's find out, shall we?" Walker raised the standard-issue military rifle, took aim at the center mass of the dummy, and fired a single shot. The crack of the rifle echoed through the range. There was no dramatic effect at the shield, no flash, no spark. The bullet simply passed through the energy field, as if it weren't there, and embedded itself deeply in the gel dummy. The council scientists froze in collective shock. Dr. Lorne rushed to the shield generator, checking its settings. "Impossible. The shield is functioning perfectly." "Would you like us to try again?" Walker asked, keeping his voice carefully neutral. "Perhaps, with a different caliber," Dr. Lorne suggested, his voice slightly higher than before. Walker obliged, testing handguns, shotguns, and even a sniper rifle. Each projectile passed through the alien shield without resistance. Dr. Lorne's assistants frantically adjusted settings and brought out different shield types. None stopped the bullets effectively. "I don't understand," Dr. Lorne finally admitted. "Our defensive technology is designed to disperse energy weapons, create repulsive fields against plasma-based attacks. But these simple metal projectiles—" He trailed off, staring at the bullet-riddled dummy. Admiral Thompson stepped forward. "It seems, Doctor, that your civilization's advancement beyond projectile weapons has created a rather significant blind spot in your defenses." The silence that followed was heavy with implications. Later, Walker and Thompson watched from the window as the council scientists departed, their earlier arrogance replaced with evident concern. "They're reassessing us," Thompson said quietly. Walker nodded. "Good. But I can't help wondering." "What?" "If there are others out there who might have discovered the same weakness." Walker turned from the window. "And what happens when they do?" 3 days after the shooting range incident, Walker received orders to prepare a full military demonstration, for the Galactic Council representatives. Word had spread quickly among the alien delegation about the effectiveness of human weapons against their defensive technologies. The demonstration was set up at a remote military testing ground in Nevada. Bleachers had been erected for the council observers, positioned safely behind bulletproof barriers. The morning sun glinted off the elaborate armor and decorative headgear of the higher-ranking council members. Ambassador Trell sat stiffly in the center seat, his earlier condescension replaced by cautious attention. Beside him, Dr. Lorne fidgeted with a series of instruments, occasionally conferring with other scientists in their native language. They looked nervous, Lieutenant Parker observed as she helped Walker organize the demonstration sequence. Wouldn't you be? They just discovered their supposedly superior technology has a fundamental weakness. Walker checked his clipboard. Is the armor target ready? Parker nodded. Set up just as they requested. Council standard issue combat armor, their latest model. They've reinforced the shield specifically to counter projectiles. Walker smiled thinly. Let's see how that works out for them. When all was ready, Walker stepped to the microphone. Distinguished representatives of the Galactic Council, thank you for attending today's demonstration. We understand you have concerns about the compatibility of your defensive systems with our weapons technology. Today's exercises should provide clarity on this matter. The first demonstration featured standard military rifles against Council armor mounted on test dummies. Despite the aliens' adjustments, the bullets tore through their shields and penetrated the armor with ease. Each impact drew murmurs from the audience. They moved on to showcase different calibers and weapon types. Sniper rifles punched clean holes through the strongest Council shields. Shotguns overwhelmed their defenses with multiple projectiles. Even handguns proved effective at closer ranges. Most dramatically, a .50 caliber machine gun turned a Council battle suit, supposedly able to withstand direct energy weapon fire, into tattered scraps within seconds. During a brief intermission, Walker overheard two Council military officers speaking through their translators. It's the velocity combined with the physical nature, one was saying. Our shields are designed to disperse energy across the field. These solid projectiles simply have nowhere to disperse to. Can we adapt our technology? Asked the other. Not quickly. We'd need to fundamentally redesign our defensive systems. Walker approached Ambassador Trell, who was staring at the remains of the armor demonstrations with an expression Walker was beginning to recognize as concern. Ambassador, I hope these demonstrations are providing useful data. Trell turned his large eyes toward Walker. Captain, I must admit we have misjudged certain aspects of human military capability. Your weapons are more effective than we anticipated. They're simple, but effective, Walker replied. Sometimes the old ways work best. The afternoon demonstrations showcased heavier weapons, artillery, tank shells, and missile systems were all tested against Council ship armor and shield technology. The results were consistently devastating. The final demonstration featured a new electromagnetic railgun, still in prototype stages. When fired at a sample of Council ship hull material, the hypersonic projectile passed through it as if it were paper, continuing on to explode a concrete block behind it. Complete silence fell over the Council delegation. General Krav, the Council's military commander, approached Walker after the test concluded. Unlike the other aliens, his forearms were heavily muscled, and scars crisscrossed his purple skin. Your species fought many wars against itself, he stated, not a question. Walker nodded. Too many. It shows in your weapons. They are efficient. The alien general's translator couldn't quite capture the complex emotion in his voice. We may have much to learn from each other, Captain. I hope it never comes to that, General, Walker replied. But if it does, humanity stands ready. As the Council members filed back onto their transport, their earlier mockery was gone, replaced by a new respect tinged with unease. 2 weeks after the weapons demonstration, the Galactic Council established a temporary embassy in Washington, D.C. Talks were progressing about Earth joining the interstellar community, with humans gradually gaining access to alien technology and knowledge. Walker had been assigned as permanent military liaison to the Council. He sat in a conference room with representatives from both Earth and alien governments, discussing trade routes and defense treaties. The condescending attitude of the Council members had noticeably shifted. Now they treated humans with cautious respect, particularly when military matters arose. Ambassador Trell was in the middle of explaining the Council's non-interference policies when his communication device chimed with an urgent tone. The room fell silent as Trell pressed a button on his wrist. A holographic projection appeared in the center of the conference table, showing another alien species Walker hadn't seen before. This alien had gray skin stretched tight over a skeletal frame and eyes that glowed faintly red. It spoke rapidly in a language Walker couldn't understand. Trell's posture changed immediately. His forearms stiffened, and Walker could see what looked like fear in his alien features. The Council members exchanged alarmed glances. "What's happening?" President Hartman asked. Trell turned to the humans, his voice uncharacteristically tense. "We must suspend these talks temporarily. A situation has developed that requires the Council's immediate attention." "What kind of situation?" Walker pressed. After a moment's hesitation, Trell responded. "A species known as the Vex has launched attacks against 3 Council border worlds. This is unexpected. They have been contained for centuries." The hologram changed to show space battles around planets Walker didn't recognize. Massive ships exchanged energy weapon fire, but Walker noticed something concerning. The attacking Vex ships seemed unaffected by the Council defenders' weapons. "Your defenses aren't working," Walker observed. General Krav stepped forward, his scared face grim. "The Vex have adapted. They appear to be using some form of physical projectile technology alongside their energy weapons. Our shields—" He didn't finish the sentence. The Council representatives quickly gathered their materials. "We must return to our ship to coordinate with our fleet," Trell announced. Walker caught General Krav's arm as he passed. "We can help. Earth has extensive experience with defense against projectile weapons." The alien general looked down at Walker's hand, then at his face. "This is a Council matter. Humans are not yet members. But we have the exact expertise you need right now." President Hartman stepped in. "The general is right. Earth offers its full military consultation and support against this threat." Ambassador Trell shook his head. "We appreciate the offer, but this conflict is beyond Earth's capabilities. The Vex are an ancient and highly advanced civilization. This is not like your tribal wars." Walker felt his temper rising. "With respect, Ambassador, your highly advanced defenses are failing against basic projectile weapons, something humans have been dealing with for centuries." A tense silence filled the room. The emergency communication device chimed again. This time, the hologram showed a Council world in flames. Massive Vex ships hovered over a burning city, launching what Walker could clearly identify as kinetic bombardment, essentially dropping large metal rods from orbit, letting gravity do the work. "Thrakon colony has fallen," one of the Council members announced, voice hollow. "Estimated casualties, 2 million. General Krav's expression darkened. "How many more worlds must fall before pride gives way to wisdom?" he asked, looking directly at Trell. The ambassador's shoulders slumped. "Perhaps we could accept limited human consultation on defensive measures." "Not good enough," Walker said firmly. "Those projectile weapons tearing through your defenses. We've been developing countermeasures against them since before your ancestors visited Earth. You need more than our consultation. You need our active participation." President Hartman placed a hand on Walker's shoulder in warning, but the damage was done. To everyone's surprise, General Krav laughed, a harsh, barking sound. "The human speaks truth, Trell. Our shields are useless against these weapons." Trell looked between the burning hologram and Walker's determined face. "Very well. The Council will formally request Earth's military assistance." His large eyes fixed on Walker. "I hope your species' expertise proves as valuable as you claim, Captain." "It will," Walker promised. "But we need to move fast." As the meeting adjourned, Walker couldn't help but feel that humanity had just been thrust onto a much larger stage than anyone had anticipated, armed with nothing but their primitive weapons and centuries of bloody experience. The situation deteriorated rapidly. Within 3 days of the emergency meeting, 5 more Council worlds had fallen to the Vex. The Council's grand fleet, once considered invincible, retreated from battle after battle, their energy shields useless against the Vex's newly adopted projectile weapons. Walker stood in the war room established within the Pentagon, surrounded by holographic displays showing the galactic conflict. Red markers indicated fallen worlds, yellow showed contested systems, and green represented those still securely under Council control. There were far too many red markers. "The Vex are using a simple strategy," Walker explained to the mixed group of human and alien military leaders. "They've studied the Council's defenses and exploited the same weakness we discovered, but they're being predictable about it." General Krav leaned forward, his scared face illuminated by the holographic maps. "Explain." "They're relying entirely on kinetic weapons now because they work, but that creates its own vulnerability." Walker pointed to the Vex fleet movements. "They've abandoned their energy weapons almost completely, which means they're vulnerable to the right kind of countermeasures." "What do you propose?" Ambassador Trell asked. The diplomat had been humbled by recent events, his earlier arrogance replaced by grim determination. Admiral Thompson stepped forward. "A joint operation. Human ships equipped with both ballistic defenses and our projectile weapons, fighting alongside Council vessels retrofitted with similar technology." "Impossible," one of the Council engineers objected. "We cannot redesign our entire fleet in the middle of a war." "You don't have to," said Dr. Miller, Earth's lead weapons scientist. She tapped her tablet, and the hologram changed to show new ship designs. "We're not suggesting rebuilding your ships. We're suggesting additions, basically bolting our weapons systems to your existing vessels." The Council technical team studied the designs with growing interest. "These modifications could be implemented within days," one admitted. Walker pointed to a specific ship design. "We've also developed a Special Forces infiltration vessel, small, heavily armored, and packed with projectile weapons. The plan is to get past the Vex fleet and target their command ships directly." "Who would crew such vessels?" General Krav asked. "Joint teams, human weapons specialists alongside Council navigation and tech experts." A heavy silence fell over the room as the implications became clear. This wasn't just about sharing technology anymore. It meant humans and aliens fighting side by side in actual combat. President Hartman spoke for the first time. "Earth is prepared to commit significant military resources to this alliance. In return, we expect full membership in the Galactic Council when this crisis is resolved." Ambassador Trell looked as though he wanted to object, but General Krav spoke first. "Agreed. The beings who bleed together to protect the Council deserve a voice in its chambers." The next 5 days were a blur of activity. Earth's military-industrial complex shifted to war footing with remarkable speed. Weapons factories operated around the clock, producing everything from rifle ammunition to ship-mounted railguns. Council engineers worked alongside human technicians, adapting alien vessels to carry physical armor and projectile weapons. Walker supervised the training of the Joint Special Forces teams. The Council soldiers, initially awkward with physical weapons, learned quickly. Their forearms proved advantageous for handling human firearms, allowing them to operate multiple weapons simultaneously. On the 6th day, the combined fleet was ready. 40 Council ships retrofitted with human weapon systems, alongside 15 Earth vessels upgraded with alien technology. The Special Forces infiltration ship, named _unexpected answer _ in a nod to their unusual alliance, sat in the launch bay, loaded with the best soldiers from both species. Walker stood on the bridge of the command ship, looking out at the combined fleet. "Captain Walker," General Krav said, approaching with a ceremonial sword in one of his 4 hands. The Council has appointed you Joint Fleet Commander for this operation. Walker stared in surprise. Sir, I'm just a captain. Surely there are more qualified. You understand these weapons and tactics better than any Council officer. And our troops trust you. Krav handed him the sword. The Council may have laughed at human guns, Captain Walker, but no one is laughing now. Walker accepted the sword, feeling the weight of responsibility it represented. All ships report ready, Commander, announced the communications officer. Walker took a deep breath. Set course for the Vex front. It's time to show them they're not the only ones who can adapt. The combined fleet dropped out of faster-than-light travel at the edge of the Arcturus system. Ahead of them, orbiting the third planet, loomed the massive Vex Armada, 57 warships surrounding a central command vessel twice the size of anything the Council had ever built. Walker stood on the bridge of the flagship, _Defiant Unity _, watching as the tactical display updated with enemy positions. The crew, a mix of humans and Council species, worked with practiced efficiency despite having trained together for less than a week. Vex fleet is assuming attack formation, reported Lieutenant Parker from the weapons station. They're launching fighter craft. Walker nodded. Deploy our screening vessels. Have railgun batteries target their lead ships. Energy weapons to remain in standby mode. General Krav, serving as Walker's second-in-command, transmitted the orders. The fleet spread out into the formation they had practiced. Council ships protected by human vessels equipped with point defense systems designed specifically to intercept physical projectiles. Enemy fighters on approach, Parker announced. Kinetic weapons detected. They are using some kind of mass accelerator technology. Just as we expected, Walker said. Deploy countermeasures. The human ships launched clouds of specialized chaff, millions of tiny metal fragments that created a defensive screen against incoming projectiles. The Vex fighters fired their weapons, but most of their shots were deflected or absorbed by the chaff cloud. Our turn, Walker ordered. All ships, commence firing. The human vessels opened up with their railguns, launching hypersonic metal projectiles toward the Vex fleet. At the same time, the retrofitted Council ships fired their newly installed missile systems. Unlike energy weapons, these physical projectiles passed straight through the Vex shields. Explosions blossomed across the enemy formation as the missiles found their targets. 3 Vex ships broke apart, unprepared for the sudden vulnerability of their defenses. They're adapting, Krav warned, pointing to the tactical display. Several Vex ships were hastily deploying physical armor plates, attempting to shield vulnerable areas. As expected, Walker replied. Phase 2. At his command, the Council ships now activated their energy weapons, but instead of targeting the Vex vessels directly, they fired at the debris field created by the initial attack. The energy beams superheated the metal fragments, turning them into plasma that washed over the Vex ships regardless of their shields or hastily deployed armor. Clever, Krav admitted, using our weapons to enhance yours. The battle intensified as the Vex responded with their own adaptations. Their larger ships began firing massive kinetic rounds that even the chaff couldn't fully stop. Several Allied vessels took heavy damage. Walker checked the tactical display again. Despite their success, they were still outnumbered. The Vex command ship remained protected behind layers of defensive vessels. It's time, he said to Krav. Launch the _unexpected answer _ From the belly of the flagship, the Special Forces infiltration vessel detached and powered up its engines. Smaller than a standard shuttle but heavily armored, it carried a mixed crew of human and Council special forces and a payload designed to end the battle. Walker watched it disappear into the chaos of combat, its stealth systems rendering it nearly invisible among the debris and weapons fire. Keep their attention focused on us, he ordered. All ships pressed the attack. The Allied fleet surged forward, intensifying their assault. The Vex responded in kind, concentrating their fire on the most threatening vessels. Through it all, the small infiltration ship slipped unnoticed toward the massive Vex command ship. On board the unexpected answer Major Lee and his team prepared for boarding. The human soldiers checked their weapons while their four-armed council counterparts adjusted their modified armor. Approaching target, the pilot announced. 30 seconds to contact. Remember, Lee told his mixed squad, we go in fast, plant the packages, and get out. No heroics. The infiltration ship latched onto the hull of the Vex command vessel, cutting through with specialized tools. As the breach widened, Lee led the charge, firing his rifle at the startled Vex defenders. The Council Special Forces followed, wielding human shotguns with deadly efficiency. Back on the flagship, Walker watched the battle unfold, waiting for the signal. "Sir," Parker called out, multiple detonations detected inside the Vex command ship. Walker allowed himself a small smile. "All ships, target the command vessel. Everything we've got." As the combined firepower of the Allied fleet converged on the now vulnerable Vex flagship, Walker thought about how quickly things had changed. From dismissing human weapons as primitive to relying on them for survival, the Galactic Council had come a long way. And so had humanity. The victory celebration in Washington, D.C. was unlike anything Earth had seen before. Aliens and humans mingled in the streets, united by their shared triumph. Above the White House, holographic displays showed the final moments of the battle, the Vex command ship breaking apart under the combined assault, followed by the surrender of their remaining forces. Walker stood on the stage beside General Kraft, Ambassador Trell, and President Hartman. Though the formal ceremony wouldn't begin for another 10 minutes, the crowd had already gathered. Humans and council species alike cheered as military units from both sides marched in formation. "Still hard to believe," Parker said, joining Walker at the edge of the stage. Now promoted to captain, she had commanded one of the human vessels during the battle. 6 months ago, they were laughing at our primitive weapons. Walker nodded. Nothing changes perspective quite like having your life saved by the thing you mocked. The honor guard appeared, carrying flags of Earth nations alongside the spiral emblem of the Galactic Council. Behind them came the real heroes, the surviving members of the Special Forces team who had breached the Vex command ship. Major Lee walked with a slight limp, his face bearing new scars, but his expression was proud as he led his mixed squad of human and alien soldiers. President Hartman stepped forward to begin the ceremony. Today marks not just a military victory, but a new chapter in human history. Earth is no longer alone in the cosmos. We stand as equals among the stars. Ambassador Trell spoke next, his voice carrying to the crowd through translation devices. "On behalf of the Galactic Council, I formally welcome Earth as our newest full-member world." He turned to face Walker. "And we acknowledge that we have much to learn from our human allies." The crowd erupted in cheers as Trell placed the council medallion, a physical representation of membership, in Walker's hands. "Captain James Walker," Trell continued, "the council recognizes your leadership during the Vex crisis. You are hereby granted the rank of fleet commander in the Council Defense Force, the first human to hold such a position." General Kraft stepped forward, presenting Walker with a ceremonial sword. Unlike the temporary one from before the battle, this one was inscribed with Walker's name in both human and council languages. "The lesson we have learned," Kraft announced to the crowd, "is that true advancement comes not from abandoning the old ways, but from knowing when they remain valuable. Human weapons may have seemed primitive to us, but they saved countless lives across the galaxy." Later, at the reception in the White House, Walker found himself surrounded by council scientists and military officers. Their questions were no longer condescending but eager and respectful. "We've begun developing hybrid defense systems," explained Dr. Lorne, who had once dismissed human firearms so casually. "Energy shields layered with physical armor, designed to counter both types of weapons. And our shipyards are constructing vessels with integrated ballistic weapons," added a council admiral. "The new destroyer class will carry both energy cannons and railguns." Walker listened, noting how quickly the council had adapted once they overcame their pride. "What about the Vex?" he asked. any sign of further hostilities. General Krav shook his head. Their remaining forces have retreated beyond the outer rim. With their main fleet destroyed and their tactical advantage neutralized, they pose no immediate threat. Ambassador Trell approached, looking more relaxed than Walker had ever seen him. Commander Walker, the Council wishes to establish a joint military academy. We would like you to oversee its development. An academy? Walker asked, surprised. Yes, to ensure that future generations of Council defenders understand both energy and physical combat principles. Trell's expression turned solemn. We must never again allow technological arrogance to blind us to effective strategies, regardless of their perceived sophistication. Walker looked out the window at the celebration continuing in the streets. Humans teaching aliens how to shoot rifles. Council members showing humans how to operate energy weapons. Two civilizations, bridging the gap between their technologies. I would be honored, Ambassador, Walker said finally, though I hope we're training for a peace that lasts. Trell followed his gaze to the celebration outside. As do I, Commander. But thanks to humanity's primitive weapons, we now have the chance to build that peace from a position of strength. Walker raised his glass in a toast. To new respect and old weapons. And to finding strength in unexpected places, Trell added, touching his glass to Walker's. Around them, the future of human-council relations took shape, built on the foundation of a simple truth. Sometimes the oldest solutions remain the most effective, even among the stars.